Hello, welcome to my channel, Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. So, what is impact evaluation? All right. Well, I'm sure you've come across this word before, but haven't really understood what it is. Well, you see, when you look at the word itself, it is self-explanatory. Impact evaluation. Okay, so and the word impact is change. Okay, that's what it means. It is the overall change that is experienced over a period of time. Okay, it could be positive, it could be negative, but it is change that is distinct. You can see it, you can measure it, and this is the change that is attributed to the impact. So let me give you an example, a practical example. I always like to use the example of the dam. You know, some of these dams around the world that have been constructed, they can be constructed for purposes of storing water, so that you have a reservoir of water, or they can be used also for hydroelectric power generation. So whatever the reasons they are constructed, I would like to use the example of the hydroelectric power generation. So once that dam is constructed, what happens? That leads to power generation. Okay, so now the power generation, the electricity that has been produced, what does it do for the community? It does many things. When there's power in a community, when there's electricity, it stimulates economic activity, because with that electricity, you're going to have some people using that electricity maybe to pump water for irrigation of their crops. And those crops, you know, those things they've planted, those crops they've planted will be used to feed the nation, or even to export various commodities to different countries. And you see, that will be earning forex for them. Again, with electric power generation, you can even export that power to other nations that are lacking electricity. Okay, but then we shouldn't also forget that, you know, power does so many things. You know, it does so many things. It's used for construction, it's used to warm our beds, you know, warm ourselves in the home, so many things, which helps with our livelihoods. So now the impact, the change of having that power is usually positive, because when you have people with more money in their pocket, it ultimately means that their livelihoods improve. People are more happy. Okay, so now we've talked about the impact. Now the evaluation. So the evaluation, the word evaluation itself tells you, because that word evaluation means an in-depth assessment. You're doing an assessment of a project in order to know whether there has indeed been any change. Okay, so when you do that evaluation, it's that assessment excuse me, is important, because it is objective, it is based on evidence. All right, and it is done by professionals who have years of experience on the subject matter. So basically, the impact evaluation is an assessment to determine whether indeed there is a change that has happened and is it attributed to the project? Okay, so that word attribution is a complicated word but very necessary, because you see, power generation is not the only thing. I'm referring to the example now of the hydroelectric power dam. So power generation is not the only thing that can improve livelihoods. There are so many things that can lead to improved livelihoods of a community. It could be, for instance, that maybe a well-wisher came to that community and probably donated millions of money to these people, and they themselves took the initiative to improve their livelihoods. Or it could be that perhaps this improved livelihood is as a result of improved weather patterns. Because, for instance, if the rain was good that year, then it means that crops would be, would be flourishing. And with better crop production, what does that mean? Better incomes. So livelihoods improve, So this assessment is done to cure all that. That evaluation is done to cure all that. So what will happen is that, for instance, if you have these consultants, I usually call them consultants because, in most cases, when an evaluation is done, you're using consultants because they are objective, they have the academic qualifications to back them up, and most importantly, I think it's the experience really that they have dealing with such matters. So they themselves are going to assess, they're going to do an assessment and say, okay, indeed so, this project is responsible for this improved livelihood. Indeed so. So now, what is really involved when it comes to conducting an impact evaluation? What is really involved? I can tell you there is a lot involved. Okay, and it's not that I want to make it seem like it's a scary word or it's a word that you should fear and say, ooh, I can never do that. You see, the truth of the matter is that when it comes to this evaluation, let's say you've been implementing a project for 5 years, and usually impact, when you say impact, it's not even done. The impact is not even a study done right at completion of the project, because really, to tell you the truth, to see change, it takes a lot of time. So it's a study that has to be done years after the project has completed. So let's say you had a project to improve livelihoods of people that was being implemented for 5 years, and it comes to the completion on the 5th year. This impact study will have to be done maybe 4 to 5 years later. Okay? Because the reason why is that change doesn't happen overnight. The one thing I need to tell you is that because of, as human beings, we have a short lifespan. Okay, and it's really sad. You wake up one morning and we are always chasing after time. We want to see things done quickly. We want to see things done quickly because we have a short lifespan, and it's sad, but that's the reality. Things will change one day. Yeah, I'm a believer. So now, the issue is that in as much as we want to see things change within a short period of time, it's not going to happen that way because it takes time to see impact. Okay? There is behavioral change, that takes time. and other factors that take time, because everything takes time. So let's go back to the dam, because for instance, even if the power is generated today, okay, people in that community, if they didn't have connection to electricity, they'll need a period where they need to get connected to the grid, okay? Then there's also the learning phase. Business, for these community people, business is not something that just comes one, like, snap of your finger, things are happening. No, there's that learning curve, you see. So even if they tap into that power today and they grow their crops, there's that learning curve of knowing, how do I start this business? How do I now start making money out of these crops? Where do I find the markets? And things like that. Okay, I'm talking too much of humanitarian work because I'm familiar with it. But maybe let's just go to the engineering part, okay? Construction. You construct a building. What is the impact of having this building in a certain city? Okay? What is the impact? Is it positive or negative? Other people will say that, okay, this building you've constructed has contributed to pollution. But still, the educated people will need that evidence to say that, okay, having this building in place indeed has led to pollution, which has made people sick. So there has to be an impact study. And that study needs to happen years after the project ended. So what is involved? Okay. First of all, during the implementation of the project, there has to be activities. There has to be a lot of monitoring reports. Okay. It's not really about the number of times you monitor, but it's really about routine data. You getting the data regularly. Okay, it has to be done on a regular basis. So this information should be documented, should be stored. Okay, because what happens is that when these evaluators come, they will have to refer to that documentation to have a conclusion, to make a conclusion. Another important aspect is to develop the terms of reference of the study. Okay? What is it you really want to investigate? What is it you want to know when you say impact? Of course, you say, no, there's just one impact. Yes. But still, there are a lot of things you want to gather. Was this project successful? Did it meet the intended goal? There are all those things. And it's not easy to draw conclusions when you have so much data, because in many cases, these projects, these programs which are being implemented have so much data. How do you draw the right conclusions? What do you do with some of this information? And that's where the evaluators come in. They are able to make conclusions, to draw conclusions. But even when they draw conclusions, it's not easy, It's not easy to draw conclusions because there's just so much that is happening. So, if you've noticed, what will evaluators do after they've done the assessment? They'll come up with a very big report. And that tells you that it's not easy to come up with one conclusion. All right? So there's definitely need to have this thing well planned. Stakeholders have to be involved in coming up with something that is concrete. They really need to invest in selecting the right people to do the job. For small projects, a small team is obviously okay. But for big projects, you need a big team to do an impact evaluation. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that these impact evaluations are done, you know, okay, there's all right, let me say, so now I've given you the ideal definition of what an impact evaluation is. It's done years after the project has ended. But what has happened in many cases is that if a project is running 5 years, the impact, if the evaluation will be done on the 5th year. All right. And it's not, in my view, that is not the ideal. So now what should we really be measuring at the end of the 5th year? Okay, maybe the evaluation should be not focusing on the impact, you know, because those things take time, but it should just focus on systems, the team, the project staff, were they doing the right thing? Was the job being done the right way? Things like that, okay? But you see, because we really want to see results. You see, everywhere you go, we have a short lifespan as human beings. We can only live until 70, 80 years, you know. So we want to see things within the shortest period of time, you see. So that is why we get so excited to have evaluators come on the 5th year, do the evaluation and tell you results were good. And then more money now, donors will be excited to pump in more money, you know. If you really come to think about it, change is gradual. Look around you. People who were born, like let's say Einstein, okay, let's talk about Einstein. He invented so many things, but he probably would have wanted to see his inventions reach the level they have reached today. But the truth of the matter is that unfortunately it couldn't, you know, it didn't, it can't, you see, because we have few years ahead. So the truth of the matter is that if we are going to do an evaluation, what we should be measuring should not be the impact, but maybe something else, because impact takes time. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. All my videos on voice notes are discussion, and I want you to feel at home. I want you to feel like I'm with you in the room. So I hope you enjoyed this short video. And remember, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please feel free to do so, because my channel will always be giving you the latest videos and latest content. Until we meet again, I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.